should jealousy have any room in the heart of any Christ follower? We should get a little angry at jealousy. We should get a little angry at anger that turns to sin. How many of y'all know that God gets angry, but he doesn't sin in his anger? How many of y'all know Jesus was flipping tables around in the temple? How many of y'all know that there's anger that's righteous, but then there's anger that lashes out? And that's not okay. What a home really provides and why we need a home is because it truly gives us a sense of belonging. I belong to something that is so much bigger than myself. I belong to something that is so much more important than myself. And truth be told is that you can get a sense of belonging from a lot of different things. In fact, if we're honest with ourselves, you can look at the world and the culture that we live in the United States of America, and many people get their belonging through their political party. Can I get an amen on that? That's just true. That's just honest. That's where we get a sense of belonging, and some people even get a sense of identity from that. But here's the problem with getting a sense of belonging from a political party is how many of y'all know that those political parties change from year to year, from decade to decade, from administration to administration. And all of a sudden, where you thought that you once were is no longer where you were. So we need to be able to make sure that we have a sense of belonging from something that will never change, even if you wanted to. Where we really get a sense of belonging is from our family. Come on now. And some of us have great families and some of us have difficult families. But no matter what, you're going to get a sense of belonging from your family. And that's why we say that every single person needs a church home. Because we're all human and we're all faulty. And no matter what kind of home that you had, whether it was a great one or whether it was one that was maybe even full of abuse, that you can find belonging from a church family and a church home. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 19, our main theme verse through this entire series, it says this amazing good news for all of us to hear. So now you Gentiles are no longer strangers and foreigners, or in other words, just somebody who didn't know Jesus and you come to know Jesus. You're no longer a stranger and a foreigner. You're no longer somebody who doesn't belong. You're not just somebody who walked into a door for the first time. No, once you become known by Jesus Christ, this amazing things happens. You are a citizen along with all of God's holy people. You are members of God's family. Once you say yes to Jesus Christ, you're now part of God's family. And then why we need to make sure that we have a home is because what Hebrews chapter 10 tells us. It says, let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works, and let us not neglect our meeting together. How many of y'all know that truly, if you want to find some strong relationship with people, you want to be able to find some intimacy that you can share your heart, you can share your thoughts, you can share your life with somebody, that it is so much easier to find intimacy in proximity than when you are separated from. Proximity breeds intimacy. When you're separated from people and you're not having conversations, you don't know where they are and you don't know where you are, and you're not sure if you're on the same page or not. You got to meet together. You got to have conversations. You got to be able to laugh together. You got to be able to cry together. You got to be able to just simply meet together. This is why everybody needs a church home. We need a church family, and we need to be able to make sure that we're meeting together in a church home. Which then leads to this question, and the one that we're trying to answer during this entire series. If we know that we need a church family and we know that we need a church home, why do so many people choose to be church homeless? Why do they choose to be church homeless? And I've said it every single week in this series, and I'll say it again. I understand why some people do, but I don't understand why other people don't. The one group that I understand why they don't want to be, or why they choose to be church homeless, is because they don't believe in Jesus yet. Come on, somebody. They don't believe in Jesus yet. And so they don't find the need. They want to find belonging in something else that's going to shift and change. But those that believe in Jesus, how many of y'all know that there's so many people that truly believe in Jesus, yet they're church homeless? They're wandering around. They're going from one church to another church to listen to one pastor, then another pastor, and they're not finding any sense of home and truly not a sense of family to encourage, especially to challenge. It's difficult for so many people. And what we're doing is we're walking through this series and we're trying to figure out why so many believers choose to be church homeless. And we're actually answering that by looking at the top reasons why there's homelessness in our country today. And we've walked through these top reasons. Listen, addictions cause homelessness. And unfortunately, addictions cause church homelessness as well. Last week we talked about one that it was really difficult actually. We talked about domestic violence and how domestic violence causes homelessness. And then inside a church, again, being as dramatic as I can, is that church hurt causes so many people to be church homeless. Not just the victim of that church hurt, but also the perpetrator of that church hurt, just hopping around, going from church to church to church. I got to tell you, just being as honest and from my heart as I possibly can, and I think that we could all agree, especially during the Christmas season, this isn't our typical kind of series. This isn't the type of series that we usually go through. I mean, honestly, right before this series, we did a little 2-week mini-series on the key to happiness. How many of y'all know that was a little different than this series? This series sounds a lot like this. Yeah. Just like that. Because it's been really hard and difficult. I just want you to know, like, honestly, it's been really hard and difficult to even write this series. And to stand up here and to preach this series and communicate it to each and every single one of us. It's a lot easier to talk about keys to happiness. It's a lot easier to talk about relationships. It's a lot easier to talk about all of those things than talking about something so difficult as homelessness, and then spiritually talking about church homelessness. It's been raw. It's been difficult. And I'm going to tell you that it's been something that I've had to process through more than most other series even. Just because I've left this room, I've left this morning emotionally just depleted because it's just been so hard. But I think it's so important for us to face major issues at times, right? And now it seems weird to do it during a Christmas season because we want to talk about joy. We want to talk about hope has a name, and we all agree with that. But at the same time, how many of y'all know that the holidays, the Christmas, Thanksgiving through Christmas and New Year's, how many of y'all know that honestly, that's some of the toughest and most difficult time of the year for so many people? Y'all know that? The reason why is because the holiday season, and it's a season, the holiday season, it's an amplifier. In other words, when things are going well, the holidays, the Christmas, it's like overwhelming, full of joy. But when things aren't going well, it amplifies that as well. And that's why I think it's important for us that even though we want to talk about hope, and even though we want to talk about the fact that Emmanuel, God with us, that we truly get to walk that every single day, we still need to talk about some tough things because people go through tough things. As we've been processing through this, Pastor Jenny and I, we go on a walk almost every single day. We get our little 3-mile walk in, and I say little. It's not little. That's 3 miles, y'all. Come on. We go on our walk and we talk during that time and process and we talk about life. We talk about each other. We talk about our kids. We talk about everything else that's going on. We talk about church. We talk about faith. We talk about what God's speaking to us and as we were sitting there on our walk, just on Monday, we were sitting there talking about it, and Pastor Jenny actually, she challenged me. She challenged me with a statement about this series, and it was something that I had to process even myself, because this is not our typical type of series, and it's not my typical style of preaching the Word of God. It comes across maybe a little bit different. And what she challenged me with is she said, if somebody hadn't had a previous relationship with Focus, if they hadn't been here for a while, that honestly, you could come across as a little bit of an angry preacher. Y'all been around angry preachers? Man, I've been around those guys, and I haven't got my hanky yet. I don't have a hanky. I feel like you got to have a hanky with an angry preacher, man. Like wiping the stuff and like just doing all that. And I thought to myself, I thought, man, I need to process that. And so I started processing that. And I got to tell you, she's a little bit right. I'm a little angry. I'm a little angry that there are people that are homeless. I'm a little angry that there's problems that cause homelessness. And I'm a little angry that there's church homelessness. And I'm a little angry that some of these things can come creeping in easy ways. And they slip in and we don't even realize them if we are not catching ourselves on guard. I get a little angry at that. I get a little angry. And listen, I get a little angry, but we need to make sure we're never angry at the person. We're angry at sin. Not the sin that somebody's caused, just sin. And sin is this thing that causes this condition inside of all of us to fall and slip into some behaviors that none of us want to be able to have. And so I'll be honest with you, I'm a little angry. I'm a little angry. I don't want to come across as an angry preacher, but when it comes to sin, I think that each and every single one of us should have a little righteous indignation inside of us. And get angry. Get upset that this is taking place so that we can actually do something about it. One of the verses that we talked about even last week, when we look at these things, in this warning that the Apostle Paul gives, honestly, we should get angry at this kind of behavior. We should. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 20, for I'm afraid that when I come, I won't like what I find. If you don't like what you find, you might get a little angry about that, right? If I come, I'm not going to like what I find. And you won't like my response. Oh man, how many of y'all know Paul's getting he's getting a little angry at sin. I'm afraid that I will find quarreling. How many of y'all know that we should get a little angry at quarreling happening? I'm afraid that I'm going to find jealousy. Should jealousy have any room in the heart of any Christ follower? We should get a little angry at jealousy. We should get a little angry at anger that turns to sin. How many of y'all know that God gets angry? but he doesn't sin in his anger. How many of y'all know Jesus was flipping tables around in the temple? How many of y'all know that there's anger that's righteous, but then there's anger that lashes out? And that's not okay.